Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the James Beard Foundation, thank you for joining us. We are very excited for the first of 5 sessions of our winter wellness series, Stretching for Strength, Preventing and Treating Industry Body Pains. From mental to physical, this series aims to combat the various forms of industry burnout and prioritize your well-being in the new year. Our wonderful host of this workshop today is Meredith Powell of Orange Door Fund, who helped launch our Chef Bootcamp for Policy and Change. Meredith is a Massachusetts-based personal trainer, yoga teacher, and entrepreneur. She brings empathy and creativity to the fitness industry after spending years on her feet as a caterer and bartender, followed by years of sitting behind a desk as an interior designer. With a deep passion for mobility training, Meredith helps people move effortlessly through both space and life, free from restriction or pain. Before I pass it over to Meredith to begin the session, I want to quickly go over the format of the webinar. This session is being recorded and will be uploaded to JBF's virtual education library. We will try to leave time for a couple of questions. Please use a Q&A box to do so, but ideally we will maximize Meredith's training coverage. If you have any tech issues, please write in the chat and we will do our best to help. Now I'll pass the floor to Meredith. Literally. Thank you, Meredith, so much.
Thank you so much. Hello and welcome. As Anna said, yes, I am Meredith Powell. I am coming to you from cold Massachusetts today. We've been in a little bit of a cold snap up here, and so it's going to feel really good to move my body a little bit with you guys today. You can tell that I am sitting on the ground, and so what this webinar is going to be is a little bit of active movement, a lot of demonstration actually, and a little bit of talking. And so if you'd like to participate, I would invite you to find a comfortable seat for yourself. Maybe that's in your favorite chair or somewhere on the floor. If you have a yoga mat or towel and you plan to follow along with me, you might want to have that to support your knees on the ground. Otherwise, water, a notebook if you want to take notes, and later on in the class we'll be using a rolling pin. So if you have one of these, you might want to grab it now or later, or you can just watch. So I'd like to invite you to land in this session with me. We're all coming from wherever we were in our days and our lives. And so just taking a deep breath in and exhaling through your mouth will help us settle down into the session. And while we're here, while we're breathing, hopefully inhaling and exhaling with some ease, I'd like you to set an intention for the next hour. So whatever you're thinking that caused you to be here today, maybe it's you want some answers to a pain that you're having, or maybe you just want to commit to being a little bit more well in 2024. Whatever it is, set an intention for the hour, and we hope that we can give you what you're looking for. So this winter wellness series, it's such an honor to be invited to participate because I have been on a journey of my own to find balance and wellness in my life. And you may know that I'm no longer in the food industry, but it's my intention to give you tools so that you can stay in it longer than I did. So that the only answer for you is not dropping out, but indeed staying in and protecting your body. The amazing thing about you showing up here today is that you've chosen to take a step to think about ways in which you can take care of yourself. And I think that that is just so amazing. And I'm grateful that you're here. And I hope that you learned something. One thing, 1 or 2 takeaways is all I ask. The framework for the next hour is going to be divided into 3 segments, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for before work, at work, and after work. I know that as chefs and restaurateurs and people who work in the front of house, wherever you're coming from today, your job is a huge part of your life. And so I'm hopefully going to be encouraging you to fit in things to do with your body throughout the day to help regulate your nervous system. So your at work chunk of your day is pretty high stress and it's a very long time. And so what this workshop is designed to do is to turn up the dial on your sympathetic nervous system gradually, so that when you wake up, you warm up and you get ready to go to work. And when you're at work and you have to be in this high energy situation for such a long period of time, you're able to cope with it a little bit more. And then when work is over, we want to turn that dial back down. So we want to ramp up our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest nervous system, turn that up and turn the fight and flight down so that we can rest, relax, and ultimately get a good night's sleep. So that's how the class is going to go. And I want to just jump right in to the before work. What can you do? So I know that, a chef's schedule is pretty different than somebody who has just a regular old office job. And I think that that's great. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you need to get 8 hours of sleep or more than that, or, you need to go to bed immediately after you get home from work and wake up at 7. I'm not here to tell you that that has to be that. But what I am encouraging you to think about is in the morning before work, carving out a little bit of time, whether that's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, to start moving your body in a way that is a little bit gentle, but also activating. So essentially you're warming up for the workout of your workday. Being on your feet all day is very much so a workout, and you're tired at the end of it. But like any workout, whether we're doing it at the gym or going for a run, we like to warm up first so that our bodies are prepared. So instead of waking up, checking social media, freaking out with emails to vendors and anything else that's like putting out fires, and then rushing into work, which is like a pretty wake up high stress, starting that stress response right away, we want to take 5-10 minutes for ourselves to move and get our bodies a little bit juiced up for the day. So what I would recommend is in the morning, some active stretching. And active stretching uses the primary muscles. So like a bicep would be a primary mover if you're doing a bicep curl, and a tricep would be the stabilizing muscle. So it uses primary movers and supporting muscles to move a joint through its range of motion. It's great for warming up, and the way that active stretching works is that you move into a pose, you hold that stretch for 1 to 2 seconds, and then you repeat for 5 to 10 reps. So it's pretty fluid, and I have 10 active stretches that I'd like to suggest to you for your morning routine. Now, I'm not saying that you have to do all of these every day, but carve out some time for some of them. And when you wake up, listen to what your body needs, because we all wake up with some sort of stiffness that has to do with what happened the day before, or the week before, or the years before. And so really cluing into what your body is telling you is the first and most novel idea in stretching for strength and pain reduction. So I'm also going to walk you through some breathing exercises to do throughout the day, and they're different depending on the time of day, and depending on what we want to get out of them. Breathing, as simple and disappointing as this little clue might be, is directly connected to the way your body feels. If I sat here and I went for a little while, if I did short, quick neck and chest breaths, I would get pretty stressed pretty fast. But if I sat here and I took deep inhales all the way down to my belly and then exhales through my nose, I would get kind of chilled out. So breathing is very tied to our nervous system. And so in the morning, I want to show you a technique for what's called single nostril breathing. And I love it because it makes the energy spiraling through your body feel like it gets going. We're kind of like stirring the air in our bodies. And so to do single nostril breathing, you want to put your peace fingers on your forehead. So this is called your third eye in the chakra system. And you want to place your two peace fingers on your forehead and then use your ring finger and your thumb to block your nostrils. And please note that this is not a great technique for anybody that has a cold or sinus blockages. So if it's not going to work for you, it's not going to work for you. But when you do have clear nasal passageways, give it a try. So with your fingers on your forehead and then your thumb and ring finger blocking your nostrils, you want to block your left nostril with your ring finger and inhale through your right. And then block your right nostril and exhale through your left. And then block left, inhale right. And then block right, inhale left, or exhale left, excuse me. It's that kind of breathing through one nostril, inhaling through one, exhaling through the other. And then if you do 5 reps or so on one side, so 5 inhales to the right, exhales to the left, and then switch sides, 5 inhales through the left, exhales through the right. And really notice what's going on with your internal energy. You might be surprised what you find. Next up in the morning, we're going to do some neck work. We hold so much tension in our necks. And sometimes if we haven't had a perfect pillow situation when we wake up, our necks are sore and stiff. And so some easy neck work to do is some lateral flexion through the neck. And so what you want to do is you can do this assisted with your hand or without, but this is for your scalenes, which are in your neck muscles. You want to just tilt your head towards your shoulder. You can support it with the arm, the hand of the arm, the head is leaning towards, but notice that I'm not cranking, I'm just gently using a little bit of pressure. And then switch sides. And with the active stretching, it's hold for 2, up for 2, hold and up. So that's just side to side neck movement. If you want to get into other muscles of your neck, you can go to the side and look down, and then side, and then up. This really recruits different neck muscles. Side, down, side, up, and then switch sides. So straight to the side, look down, straight to the side, look up. So that's a neck work that you can do in the morning, and again, making it an active stretch. Try 5 reps in that series of 3 movements. So side, down, side, up. Do that for 5 reps on each side and see how that feels. The next exercise, so if you haven't, there's really a pattern here. What you'll notice is that I'm really taking this from our head down to our feet. And so the next exercise is going to be some spinal work. And really, one of my favorites here in this realm is cat-cow and wrist work. And cat-cow comes from yoga, but it is a stretch and a movement that's available to all of us. So with the cow, you want to drop your belly, open your chest, and lift your head up. And this is on an inhale. And then exhaling, just reverse that. So drop your head, arch your back, and then tuck your tailbone. And you can repeat this 3, 4 rounds, whatever you have time for. And the slower you can do it, the better you'll learn the articulating bones of your spine. So the other thing that you can do while you're down here, so we've done a couple cat-cows, you can also work on your wrists in this position. From kneeling, you can have your fingers facing forward and rock back and forth a little bit on your arms a few times. Maybe take another cat-cow in between, so cow and cat. And then turn your fingers out to the sides and rock back and forward a couple times. I meant to mention before I launch into everything that any of these movements that you encounter that might, you know, not be for everybody. Everybody is very different, and it is a full lifelong pursuit to find the tips and tools that work for you. And so I did want to make a little caveat about sensation versus pain. Sensation is kind of like a good sore. It's like, it's your body telling you, ooh, something's happening here. Pain is a response that says, please stop right now. This hurts and don't do it anymore. And so something that may be right for me might not be right for you. And so if you feel pain and you're following along today, or you try any of these exercises at home later, do not do them. Stop, back off. And if anybody is in really serious pain today, I would recommend taking a visit to either your doctor or a physical therapist. Okay, so that's sensation versus pain, and we were on our wrist work. So we're rocking back and forth with our fingers forward, our fingers out to the sides, and then if you have the wrist mobility, you can turn your fingers back towards your knees and rock back and forth. And this position is not only getting your wrists activated, but also giving you a little bit of a forearm stretch. And then finally, for our wrists, you can press the back of your hands down against the mat or the floor, and then rock back and forth a little bit here. I don't have very good mobility in my wrists in this direction, and so this is pretty tight for me. All right, so we've done some breathing, we've worked our necks, we've done some spinal work. We're going to address our core and our shoulders next. And one of the things that gives us back pain is a little bit of instability in our core. And so we tighten up in our backs to compensate for what might be weaknesses in our core. And so this next set of stretches is a little bit of active core work. It's just body weight, so nothing too complicated, but it's also getting in at your transverse abdominals. So we've got our rectus abdominis, which is the six-pack abs, and those are great to have if you've got them, but also not the most important thing for body stability and posture. It's really the muscles that are underneath those, which is going to be targeted by this next pose here. So the next cycle is what I call a bird dog, and that's also from yoga and thread the needle from fitness in general. So bird dog, you want to be on a hands and knees position, and this is your hands are directly underneath your shoulders and your knees are directly underneath your hips. And then extend the right arm out in front of you and the left leg behind. You hold this for 2 seconds and return to the starting point. We're going to add in some shoulder mobility here by rotating our right arm out to the ceiling, if you can, and then threading that right arm underneath the left, and hold this for 2 seconds. Come back up to starting, and then we'll alternate on the other side. So left arm out, right leg back. This is our core stabilizing movement. Come back to tabletop, left arm up and left arm under. And here we're really working on some more spinal mobility and core strength. So that's bird dog, thread the needle, and I would recommend doing 5 reps on either side. And you can either alternate left and right, or you can do 5 on one side and then switch sides. The next is more spinal rotation and more shoulder rotation. So For this, you want to find a wall, which is sort of not available to me. But I'm gonna pretend that this is a wall here. And like it, so I have some knee support. Make sure you guys can see me. Okay, this is a half kneeling spinal twist. And so if this is your wall, you can have the knee that is farthest away from the wall bent at a 90-degree angle. And you wanna, so here we are, we're in a wall position. The leg that's closest to the wall, you can have about 6 inches away. And you clasp your hands behind your head and then rotate away from the wall. And then rotate back and then towards the wall. And here, you can also add in some lateral spine movement by rotating away from the wall and then tipping down to your knee and then reversing that down to the knee. This is a really good spinal warm-up. What we're working on here is the middle of our back, which is our thoracic spine. So if I throw out thoracic anywhere else in the webinar, just know that I'm talking about the middle of your back. So that's kneeling thoracic spine twists. And in addition to this, we can do some shoulder mobility as well. And this is what's called a swimmer. So if your hands are behind your head, you would spread them out to the sides with your thumbs facing up, and then turn your thumbs to the ground, and then bend at your elbows and move your hands to the small of your back. And then go back with the rotation of the shoulder at the shoulders, and then continue on with the spinal rotation. So lots of good rotating movements in that sequence, and that is bird dog and thread the needle. Nope, sorry, that's T-spine rotation and swimmer. Okay. We're gonna do a little bit more core stability in the next series, which is plank to superhuman. And this is for, if you've never done a plank in your life, that's okay. There are lots of ways to modify a plank, or if you're a super planker, then follow along. But a plank position is essentially a diagonal line where your whole body is being supported essentially by your core and your upper back strength. And so what I would recommend for beginners is to do a high kneeling plank. So high plank, I mean that my arms are straight, but my knees are down, and then my body is in a high diagonal. We're getting a little bit of arm strength with this movement, with this slow lower to the ground. And I'm actually running out of the room. So slow lower to the ground. And then the Superman is just a little inhale and lift up your chest. And so you're engaging your lower back muscles here with the lift, and then press back up to plank. This is a little bit of strength pause in the stretching series in the morning. And so if you want a repeat of that, I'm going to lower down from my high kneeling plank. And all the way on the ground here, and then inhale and lift my chest off the ground. You can have your hands by your sides, in front of you like Superman. We call them superhumans now, I suppose. And then back and press back up. So that's plank to superhuman. So we've done from our head down to our trunk. And from here, we're gonna wrap up our morning series with some lower body warming up. And this one, in this series that I'm gonna present to you, it's really going to get our feet and our ankles and our calves and our quads and our hamstrings and our hips. And so it's pretty great. And it's a 3-part series, which starts with a low squat with alternating knee touchdowns. And I definitely understand that not everybody can get into a low squat like this. We've had lots of practice, and I also have pretty open hips. And so if you cannot get done, that is okay. Maybe you're up here, and if you need to be supported by something, or get down into this low position, but maybe your heels don't touch the floor, that's okay too. Maybe your hands need to be supporting you in front of you. That's all good. So the low squat with alternating knee touchdowns is essentially I'm noodling around in here. I'm actively stretching as we go. You're going to drop one knee to the center, pause for 2, and then lift it back up and alternate. Drop, raise, and alternate. From there, after doing that a few times, maybe 5 times on each side, we're going to go into an alternating lateral squat. So that exercise, the first one that I just showed you, is really targeting your ankle mobility and your foot and your feet and your hips, internal rotation. With this alternating lateral squat, basically, you can go into it right from the low squat, or you can come up and step out. And then just bend one knee at a time and pause when you're at your bottom, when you're at your low point for a couple seconds, and then alternate over to the other side. So this is an alternating lateral squat, and this is going to open up the inside line of your legs. And also give you a little bit of hip flexion and external rotation. Alternating squat. And then we just turn from there into a low lunge. And I call this a low lunge with explorations, because it's like finding out what your hips are telling you for the day. And my knee is telling me that it needs support, so I'm going to support my knee with a blanket or subsurface. And you want to sort of rotate around in this low forward lunge. Explore how your hip, the front hip and the back hip are feeling today. And then take your elbows to the ground. If you're able to, if you're not, that's okay. Hands down is good too. But if you are, an elbow down, and then the front knee, your same side arm is going to twist up to the ceiling. That's awesome. A little rotation up. And then we can walk our torso away from our front knee. Walk it back. Again, this is just exploratory movement. A little front and back rocking. Maybe rocking over to the side. Keeping your foot pointing straight ahead, and you're just rotating your knee to the extent that you're able to. So that's low lunge with explorations, and from here, you go back. Well, you would repeat that on the opposite side, and then finally finish up with your low squat with reaches. And so this is again more just opening up of your hips, and we're reaching arms out to the left, right, front and center, and a little bit more spinal twisting here. All right, awesome. So that is all sorts of good mobility work that you can do in the morning. Maybe you choose a few of those exercises. Maybe you choose one a day, whatever you have time for. And then we go to work. So in the middle of the day, the cue for that, sort of the mental cue, is at work, we want to energize. What I didn't say is in the morning, we want to mobilize. So before work, we want to mobilize. At work, we want to energize. And after work, I'll tell you what we want to do then in a little bit. So what do I mean by energizing at work? We are moving and stretching to create a little bit of strength and also stay loose throughout the day. I didn't really talk a ton about where body pain comes from, but I will mention it now. So a lot of body pain, well, there are lots of causes of pain, right? Much of our body pain and injury comes from muscle imbalances. So something's either overly contracted, or overly loose. So it's either holding or too weak. That's what a muscle imbalance is. And weaknesses in our muscles cause compensatory patterns. So if we have weak glutes, for example, and strong or compensatory hip flexors, we might find ourselves standing with a little bit of a bowed back. But if we work on lengthening and strengthening our glutes, we can bring length to the hip flexors. And so trying to illustrate that concept of a muscle imbalance, if something is tight and fixed because of habitual movement patterns, or so maybe you sit in one place, well, you guys don't sit in one place, but maybe you stand in a certain way all day, or office workers sit in the same place all day. And if we do something over and over and over again for way too long, then our muscles adapt and our joints tighten up and the tissues become a little less pliable in that area. And so what happens is that the other body systems in neighboring areas try to compensate. And so we begin to develop interesting poor posture habits, which can make us move improperly, and that leads to injury. So muscle imbalance is a very huge cause of body pain, and soft tissue injury as well. So inflammation or tears in our ligaments, tendons, muscles, and other body systems can cause pain. Having too much stress on our joints, maybe we have too much body weight on our joints, and so that is not helping us out in any way. Or maybe we have inflammation in our joints, and that's painful. So for those reasons, I want to talk about, well, I want to really talk about the way that you're standing at work. So posture is extremely important, and I know that, like, I started with breathing. Breathing is important, and yes, it is, and I hope that you take that to heart and believe me that it is incredibly influential. And then posture is also very important. Optimal posture allows for our body to be aligned in a manner that decreases stress on tissues and joints. So what am I talking about? We want, when we're standing at work, we want good shoes. Good shoes are important. And we basically want to have our feet and ankles pointing straight ahead, being parallel to each other. And then the feet are bearing the weight of our body all day long. And so is the weight on the outsides of your feet, or the insides, or the fronts, or the backs? And think about that the next time you're standing at work. And then remember to rebalance the weight in your feet through the 3 points. So there are the foot is basically like a triangle, and we want to have the weight pressing into the ground through the ball or the mound of our big toe, the mound of our baby toe, and the center of our heel. So like a triangle, big toe, baby toe, center of heel. And if you can think about not pushing, but distributing your weight into the ground through gravity, through those 3 points, your chances of achieving better posture go up. So those are our feet and ankles. Knees, we want our knees to be in line with our toes, not caving in or going out. We In neutral posture, we don't want them flexing or extending. And then, so we move from our knees, I'm hitting all the joints from the ground up. We move from our knees to our pelvis. We want our hips to be level and not canted, so like not elevated or hiked up on one side, really not rotated or tilted. It's not great to stand with an anterior tilt or a posterior tilt, because that does very interesting things to our legs and our upper body as well. From our pelvis, we move up to our shoulders, and we want them to be, again, level and not elevated or rounded. These are very common postural hitches for folks that sit and look at a computer all day, but you might experience this too in your life. So maybe you're standing but like looking down at your counter surface all day long. And that is not great for pulling the shoulders forward. So get them back level and in line with the other things on the way up the chain. And then finally your head, having your head when you're able to be in a neutral position. Sorry, not forward. So not jolting forward, not looking down for too long, not tilted or rounded, rotated necessarily. This is again neutral posture. I'm going to get us out of this in a minute. But an interesting factoid is that every inch your head pokes forward. So again, thinking about our phone screens or other things that we sit and look at, if we have head poke inch by inch, every inch adds 10 pounds of load to your neck. And so if you have neck pain, upper back pain, even down the chain, lower back pain, etc., getting your head into the right position is going to help alleviate some of that stress on your neck. Essentially, for great posture, an imaginary line should begin between the feet, extending upwards between the legs, through the middle of the pelvis, bisecting the trunk and going up through your head. So this is our home base. And if we stood here and worked in home base all day long, we would be robots. We are not robots. And ultimately also this home base position would make us hurt at some point too. So the idea for the energized portion of work is to move from this home base, so come back to it often, but move out of it when you can to reduce the load on your lower back, to not get stuck in a particular position. And so what I'm recommending to you guys is to, posture check. So how are you standing at work? Breath check. How are you breathing at work? Again, like I mentioned, if we're like fast breathing, we're going to be even more stressed. But maybe we're standing here and we're breathing in through our nose and out through our nose, nice and easy. We want our breath during work time to be as easy and uncomplicated as possible. So posture check, breathe easy, and then move around and fidget. So some things that you might want to do while you're fidgeting at work to get your body, keep it loose, keep it active. Maybe we want to do some toe crunches. So in your shoes, we want to kind of curl those toes in. I'm doing it with my fist so that you can see it. You can't see my toes. So some toe crunches. These are just fidgety movements, again, that you can do when your mind thinks of it. Maybe we do some ankle rolls. So lift one foot up and do some ankle rolls. Again, I'm doing this with my hand. If you can't see my foot, do that on both sides, obviously. While you're standing here, if this is your workstation, you can do supported, maybe some calf raises. This is a great mobility for the ankle and also a little bit of strength in your legs. Maybe you do some lateral step outs. So just moving from side to side. We're so geared as a society to move in our sagittal plane, which is our front and back plane. So maybe we just do some step outs from side to side to get this abduction. So that's the outstep and adduction. We're using the muscles around our pelvis for this motion. We can do some other hip work here with heel planted turnouts. So if you have your heel on the ground and you turn your leg, you rotate your foot out. This is turning your femur in your hip socket and giving you more mobility in your hip socket. So heel planted turnouts, and then you can also do toe planted turn ins. So plant your toe and turn your knee in. Heel out, toe in, and again, do that on both sides. Maybe you're standing here and you want to do some glute squeezes. That's okay, nobody's watching. You're just watching me, but you can squeeze your butt and that'll just keep things blood flowing in this area. Maybe you want to wag your tail or bend your knees and then moving up the body and moving up the chain. You can do some shoulder shrugs and rolls. So shrug it up, roll it back. All of these are keeping us a little bit looser in our standing position throughout the day. Again, with our shoulders, you can do scapula, so those are our shoulder blades. You can do protraction and retraction as just a little fidgety movement, and protraction looks like the widening of shoulder blades, and retraction looks like the pinching of shoulder blades. So protract, retract, protract, retract. And then finally, I call this look behinds with a surprised face. If you turn your head, you look behind you, oh, what's back there? Maybe there's nothing back there. Don't freak anybody out standing behind you. But this is a great neck mobility exercise. So look back. And then I mentioned the surprise face because oftentimes at work, we are holding a lot of tension in our face and our jaw. And the more that we can do to say, shake it out, surprise face. It's a good stretch, for lack of a better word, for the face. The other thing, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, that you can do at work is what I might call line Tabata. And I know that the reason why I'm not going to spend too much time on it is because I know that a lot of you won't be able to accomplish this in your job. There's no time. There's no corporate, there's no restaurant culture to support little mini breaks. But if you do work in a place where you can take some time out of the grind from, you know, a day of prep or whatever you're doing during the day, you can do little chunks of either body weight exercising or stretching. And I know some of you may have heard of line yoga before, and that's an amazing, amazing little break that you can do on the line. But line Tabata is just taking that concept of a break in your workday and narrowing it down to a 4-minute chunk. So if you haven't heard of the term Tabata before, Tabata is a work to rest ratio, which is 2 parts work and 1 part rest. So traditional Tabata is 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, and then repeating that for 8 rounds for a 4-minute chunk of time. And so maybe you do Tabata with just stretches. So maybe you do 20 seconds of a calf quad hamstring stretch, or a figure 4 and a TFL stretch, chest stretch and counter hang. And I did want to show you a couple of these things that you can do with your work table. So let's say you're doing an upper body. You've got 4 minutes of time and you want to shake things out. And we're going to do we're going to do counter push-ups for 20 seconds, a chest stretch for 10 seconds, an Arnold press for 20 seconds, and then a counter hang for 10 seconds. And in the handout that I have provided to you, I haven't gone into too much depth with the Tabata because I'm not sure it's really that you have time for it, but if you did, here's an example. So you would do counter push-ups for 20 seconds. So just like this is your work counter, pushing up off of the counter, with good form for 20 seconds. And then maybe you do a chest stretch for 10 seconds. And then after that, an Arnold press. So we've got our chest there. An Arnold press would be elbows in, elbows wide, elbows up, and repeat that. So that's a great shoulder body weight exercise. And then a counter hang for 10 seconds. So we just worked our shoulder for 20 seconds, but you can do a counter hang for 10. And that is hanging on to the edge of your tabletop, backing your body up, and then just dropping down, dropping your head and chest down through your arms. It's a great arm and shoulder stretch that might feel wonderful during the day. So I really want to get to after work, so I'm not going to spend too much more time on the at work portion, but anything that you do, again, to help you stay connected to your body throughout the day, whether that's paying attention to your breath, whether that's remembering your posture and moving to keep your body moving, it's going to help you feel a little bit better by the end of the day. And the final note I will say, and then at work, is that if you can sit for some amount of time, do it. So being on your feet for a shift that is as long as you all take is a pretty big toll. And so if you can sit for a family meal, or if you have a break and you want to go outside and get some fresh air and just sit, that will take pressure off of your spine and legs, and it'll just be a really great break. So you are in a better position than most Americans who sit all day, just from a sort of overall health, but at the same time, if you can sit a little bit, that's going to be great. Okay, so after work, I'm going to bring my bench back here. After work, we are neutralizing. So we've mobilized, we've energized, and now we're neutralizing. I want to see that I recognize that you might not be going right home after work, and that is 100% okay. But my intention for you to take away from this webinar is to encourage you to make a choice at least once or twice a week to head home from work and wind down in a way that, again, turns down your sympathetic nervous system, so turns down the volume on fight or flight, and turns up the volume on rest and digest, your parasympathetic nervous system, so that you can get your body ready to go to sleep. And sleep is extremely beneficial. So if you have body pain, oftentimes people are going to recommend sleep as one of the first things that you can do to help your body heal itself. It's not the only thing, but it is a major thing. And so in these last minutes that we have in our session, after work is all about breathing and massage to cool down and unwind. So I'm going to teach you briefly another breathing technique called box breathing. And that has no nostril manipulation, but we want to consider the cycle of breath to have 4 points. So it's just like a square. And we would, I'm going to talk you through it because I don't know if I can do this and talk at the same time, but we would inhale through our nose to a slow count. So depending on your lung capacity and your ability to hold your breath, maybe that's a count of 3. Maybe it's more, maybe it's 5. So you inhale to a slow count of 3, and then you would hold your inhale for a slow count of 3. And then exhale through your nose, to another count of 3, and then hold your exhale for another count of 3. So it's that inhale, hold, exhale, hold, and the slower you can do it, the more your body is going to say, okay, it's time to come down. And that's great, but don't hold for so long that you start to panic. when I first started doing box breathing, it made me stressed out because I was having trouble with my withholding. The exhale actually didn't feel good. And so only hold for as long as it makes you feel comfortable and safe. After box breathing, you can practice some eye movements to target the vagus nerve, which is, so it's VAGUS, a vagus nerve, which also helps trigger your parasympathetic nervous response. And so this is just sitting, and maybe you're listening to a podcast or listening to music. I'm not saying that you have to like come home and sit in the dark and quiet. Not that, but doing things to help you wind down, whatever you like to relax to. Maybe it's your favorite TV show, wherever you can get. With these eye movements, to trigger your vagus nerve, you would look up and hold for several seconds, depending on how long you can stand it for. It's kind of a weird thing. And look over or up to the right, and then sideways to the right, and then down to the right, and then down center. So it's kind of like targeted, very purposeful eye movements, looking in one direction and holding it for several seconds. The conventional wisdom is that 20 seconds is going to hit that nerve, but any amount that you can handle. So that's eye movements to, again, target the parasympathetic response. Moving down, some massage techniques. You can try a face massage. And I'm not a skilled massage therapist, but there are plenty of great YouTube videos. So if you Googled face massage for relaxation, there's some pretty good ones that you can find that I would encourage you with clean hands and face to manipulate the muscles in your face and your jaw and your neck. And then give yourself the pleasure of a scalp massage. And you can do this really, I mean, I'm not gonna say you can do it anywhere, anytime, but this is a really amazing time to just give yourself some care in this way. And it feels amazing. And like I said earlier, we hold a ton of tension in our face. And so being able to help ourselves relax this area is going to help you calm down at the end of the day. Some other body movements that you can do are a forearm smash and then wrist stretch holds. So whereas the stretching in the beginning of the day was more active stretching, the stretching at night wants to be static stretching. And static stretches are held for at least 30 seconds to get the muscles that are targeted to say, oh, I'm having a lengthening response, but I'm gonna chill out. So there's always a contraction when you start stretching a muscle, but if you give it time and the stretch, it will relax. So the forearm smash, which I think is gonna be great for chefs, is to take your forearm down to the ground and then use your body and your knee to apply pressure to your forearm. Let's try to angle over here so you can see it. But this feels really amazing. And you might get some pretty serious sensations here. And if you do, just back off. But it's using your knee to massage the muscles and the fascia of your forearms, which might get really stressed out during the day. And then wrist stretch hold. So everything that we did earlier, so fingers forward, you can just hold in this stretch. Fingers back, hold in this stretch. Palms down, facing down, hold in that stretch as well. So that's forearm smash and the wrist work. Feet and toe work. I am almost running out of time, but I really want to get to these feet and toes. We might lift and lower our toes from the standing position. Your feet are probably barking at the end of the day. And so giving them some love is going to be a great technique to feel better the next day. So lift and lower. If you want to practice some toe control, you can piano them, so lowering them one at a time, lifting them up one at a time. One thing that always feels really great to me is putting my fingers between my toes and giving myself a little bit of like a little foot massage. And then if you have pain on the underside of your feet, this might be very sensational, so give yourself a break if it doesn't feel good. But tucking all of your toes under, basically sitting on the ground on your knees and then putting your weight back into your hips will stretch out the whole back chain of your foot, and it is not too painful, it feels amazing. So that's some foot work that you can do. The rolling pin, I promise it would come out later. I could go into a whole workshop about self-myofascial release, which is called SMR, but that is essentially applying pressure with tools, either maybe a rolling pin or a foam roller or any of these massage balls. This is a toted double ball. These are kind of squishy, like tennis, they're a cross between tennis and lacrosse. This is a little bit of a larger size, so a 5-inch ball. And then this is it's called a gorgeous ball. It's really like it's a cushy ball, if you will. But myofascial release tends to the fascial system that runs throughout our body that connects everything. And maybe if you've had a muscle knot, someone's like, go get a massage or go roll it out. They're asking you to like apply pressure to that knot. So you can use a tool that you might have in your kitchen, and you can roll out your thighs and your hamstrings and even your glutes, which I'm not going to turn around and show you, but you can trust me that it does feel good. So with SMR and static stretching, again, if you hit a spot that feels tender with the myofascial release, stay on it for 30 seconds or so, and you will find that the body just sort of doesn't give up, but it seeps into relaxation. The final 2 things that I'm going to show you. The calf smash is a lot like the forearm smash, that I'm just gonna do that real quick. But that is down on the ground, so you're kneeling on one knee, and then you use the bones of your shin to apply pressure to your calves. And noodle around, stay in places where your muscles are working, feels awesome, and give yourself as much or as little pressure as feels good. And then the final thing that I want to encourage you to try is feet up the wall or an inversion. And feet up the wall is, let's pretend that that's a wall. It's just this, putting your feet up and being in a supported position. This is really amazing for people that stand all day. And so all you have to do is hang out here, and that's it. And then when you're ready to wind down, you can practice a yoga pose called Shavasana, which is corpse pose, and it is literally just lying on the floor in the most relaxed position that you can come to. And so this is where your breath comes back in, nice and easy. And by this time, hopefully you're ready to go to bed. Get a great night's sleep and do it all again in the morning. So I know that I'm pretty much out of time for questions, but I had a ton of content to cover with you all. There's not enough time in an hour to tell you all the ways in which you can move your body in ways that are going to counteract pain and feel good. But thank you for sticking with me. There is a handout that the folks from Beard are going to send out after. And if you want a copy of it, you can always reach out to them. So all of the exercises that I went through are just itemized on those handouts. So that should help you remember what to do. And if you have any questions for me after the webinar, and you can always contact me. I am pretty new to independently teaching fitness, and so I don't have a social media account dedicated to that. But if you wanted to find me under my old hat, you can find me at Orange Door Workshop on Instagram, and that's OrangeDoorWorkshop. So Orange Door Workshop on Instagram. I'm happy to take questions, talk about stretching, fitness, mobility at any time. So thank you again for attending. And if you have questions and if you have time, let us know.
Thank you so much, Meredith. This was wonderful. And I just want to reiterate again, thank you, of course, to Meredith and for everyone who has joined us today. Again, this recording will be uploaded to our virtual education library, which is linked in the chat currently. But